I'm JP Tuesday.
And I'm Kiki Canon. We've been Disney fans our entire lives. And now, as childless adults, we're undertaking a journey through the media that shaped our lives.
Trying to find out if what made them special is still there.
We are Rewatching the Magic.
Hi, Kiki.
Hi, Tuesday.
We do have a little bit of news that we need to do before we get into the main feature here.
Well, let's save the news until after our introduction, because we do want to hear our special guest today.
Yes, we have a special guest.
We have a special guest. We're always happy when we have guest hosts on, and today, because of our movie, we needed a third.
The power of three.
Yes. So, will our mystery guest enter and sign in, please?
I am a big witch, the greatest witch in the state of Minnesota, here to bring you such joy and death to your podcast. They call me Madam Viga of the arts, the magical arts, here to talk about my dear departed sisters of the cinema.
Yes, Viga is a good friend of ours. Met her at MarsCon a few times. Kiki actually met Viga for the first time at MarsCon this year.
Yeah, right before lockdown.
Yeah.
Yep.
You're the last social interaction I got before a year of hell.
Yeah, we made sure we partied really hard that con.
That was a good party con.
Before the Fire Nation attacked, and now we have no conventions. Seriously, I think this is the longest I've been without going to a convention, because I go to like 12, 13 a year, and it's been like two MagFests. So 2. And it was all before basically plague came upon us.
Yeah, and there's still questions of whether there'll be conventions next year.
Yeah, I'm not going to hold my breath.
All right, so let's get to our little news item of the week. Kiki, you want to go into it?
Yeah, we sadly have to announce the death of Marge Champion. Marge Champion was known in the Disney community as the life model for the character of Snow White. She also provided reference for the Blue Fairy in Pinocchio and the ballet dancing hippos in Fantasia. She was a dancer who was very popular in the 40s and 50s. So she worked with all the greats back in that era. She worked with, Bing Crosby, and she worked with her husband, Gower Champion, who was a director and a dancer, and they did a lot of classic musicals together. But one of the last from that kind of classic Disney age, she passed away at the age of 101.
Oh, full life.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if they ever named her an official Disney legend, but that's pretty legendary to me.
Yeah.
She did indeed. She was inducted into the Disney Legends in 2007. Also in the National Museum's the National Museum of Dance's Hall of Fame. And she received the Lifetime Achievement at the Fred and Adele Estate. Yeah.
I mean, we talked about it before we started recording, how Disney always likes having actual live references when they make their animations, whether they're people or animals. And for one of the human references to be honored as a Disney legend, that's a great thing. Disney isn't always the best at credit at their behind the scenes people, but that was definitely cool of them to do that.
Yeah, I mean, and those movements back then are so specific. Snow White has such a specific way she moved, and the fairy had such a specific way she moved, and that's all March Champion. So
Yeah,
rest well.
you can only get that sort of detail they put into it in their animation by studying movement. And the best way to study movement is to get it from, well, life. Now, when it comes to like drawing out poses and stuff, you could do that from video as well, which was used in shows like Avatar and is still used today on many things, and even it was just regular illustration. But yeah, Disney has always been very good about that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, I don't think there's too much more we can say on that other than life well lived and a lot of stuff she'll be remembered for.
Yeah. So yeah, rest in peace, and you'll always be remembered in a true legend right there. I mean, it could have been anyone, but it was her. They could have got any dancer, but it was her, and the fact that they kept her on so many times, that was cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, so let's move on. Let's talk about witches, because it is Halloween. As this episode is going up, we're just days away from Halloween, and the 90s were very filled with movies and TV shows about witches. We've mentioned The Craft. You've got Practical Magic, The Blair Witch Project, the
Charmed,
Buffy the Vampire Slayer,
Scooby-Doo and the Ghoul School. Which isn't just witches, but whatever.
There was Witches, which just got a remake on HBO.
Yeah, I haven't heard much about it. I know it exists, but I haven't heard if it's good or not. I don't even have money to pay for that HBO Max anyway.
Who does?
Too many streaming services.
Yeah, too many streaming services, honestly.
So streaming services are basically millennial trading cards, and I traded my Disney Plus for Funimation, and I trade my Hulu for an Xfinity account, and I trade my Crunchyroll to get access to some other thing.
That's what I love, the streaming service, the ones that have multiple accounts on them, like different profiles. Thank you for that, because they know people are just sharing accounts.
Pretty much. They know they're probably going to try and crack down on it eventually, but...
Yeah, there was some talk about that had to be like unique IPs, or they're not going to do anything. That would be bad for them. It's going to cause their revenue to go down if they even try it. Doesn't mean they won't try, but,
Oh, heck yeah.
But let's talk about this week's movie, Hocus Pocus, from 1993. Wasn't a big hit when it came out, but
no, it only made back 2/3 of its budget, maybe.
Yeah,
but it went fire when it came to home video and TV showings, to a point that many people are nostalgic from watching it on TV or having it on video. I, for one, watched it on Disney Channel like 1 billion times when I was a kid.
Yeah. I mean, and it was only in the last decade that Disney has really embraced the fandom that's come from Hocus Pocus with merchandise, T-shirts, pop vinyls, a stage show at the Magic Kingdom.
And just recently, as in there was this article just a couple days ago, I think, of Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, and how do I forget? Yes, they all got together in costume to do some sort of kind of anniversary virtual thing coming up.
Yeah, it's a charity stream that Bette Midler is putting on. It's going to be on October 30th, which, again, as this recording is going up, will be this Friday. So that's one way to make some money. I mean, there's a lot of adults with disposable income who grew up with that movie who would love to see these three again. Even the rumor mill of a sequel movie coming to Disney Plus in the future at some point.
But what stood out to me was reading the article on how they just all fell back into character and was having a good time. And even when you rewatch the movie, you could tell they were having a lot of fun in this movie. they were having a lot of fun in these roles, and seeing that they're kind of like getting back into that and just having a good time means they still have pretty much fun and is pretty much thinks of this movie as just a really good time.
I wonder how much of this movie was ad-libbed, because you gotta admit some of this sounds like it was ad-libbed on set, and they just went, "Yeah, that's funny, keep it in."
Yeah, those three really had a great rapport. I don't think this movie would have worked as well if the three main actresses were not kind of as good at playing off of each other as they were.
Agreed.
Yeah,
and Bette Midler was just perfect casting.
Yeah. Even Bette Midler Bette Midler and Sarah Jessica Parker would work again on The First Wives Club not too long after this.
Ah.
Yeah, and Bette Midler loved the character so much she actually put it in her stage show.
Yeah.
That she would dress up in a Winnie costume and come out and sing I Put a Spell on You.
Yeah, that's like, it's just, that song is fire. I still love that song and listen to it during Halloween, even if I haven't watched the movie in like forever. It just sticks out in your memory. Because if you're going to cast Bette Midler, you better give her a freaking singing moment.
It always amazes me how she turned down Sister Act, but she did this movie. No offense to Whoopi Goldberg, but imagine that movie with Bette Midler, and she would have also worked with Kathy Najimy on that one.
Yeah.
I'm actually glad it was Whoopi Goldberg instead. I feel like it gave it a different flair.
True.
Strangely, Kathy Najimy is the one of the three that doesn't really get a singing part in this. She does backup on the big number, but Sarah Jessica Parker gets her little. Sarah Jessica Parker gets her little, come away little children song that she gets to sing by herself, and then Bette Midler gets the big showstopper number, and Kathy Najimy's just kind of there. And I'm like, that's not super fair. She's also a good singer.
And this is like because of this movie and Sister Act, Kathy Najimy kind of became an it girl for a while. She was in a lot of stuff. I mean, she even ended up doing one thing that I remember her for was this special for TNT called In Search of Dr. Seuss, which was a musical, which featured Robin Williams in that one. If you but
I was just gonna say, but if you don't remember Kathy Najimy for being Peggy Hill, are you?
She was Peggy Hill?
Come on, yeah.
I did not know that.
Did she not? Yeah, that's probably her greatest role in her career, in my opinion. Just absolutely Peggy on King of the Hill. Just so good.
I did not
so
know
good.
that.
Yeah, go back and listen to it now and you'll be like, oh, of course that's her. But yeah.
She has some range.
Yeah.
She does. And of course, we've already talked about Bette Midler. What can you say about the legend that is Bette Midler? I mean,
the
come on.
Divine Miss M.
Oh. But
oh no,
and then
Bette Midler.
And then Sarah Jessica Parker, of course, probably best known to most people for Sex and the City, but also a great theater and musical theater actress. So.
Yeah, totally didn't know that was her in the movie because she looks so different.
It's the makeup, it's the wig.
Yeah, she just looks so different that I didn't even make the connection.
And it's also the voice that she puts on for Sarah.
Because the voice is so youthful.
Yeah, and it's weird because I did see that picture of them doing the reunion, and it looks like Sarah Jessica Parker, but mostly because she's not wearing the makeup, like the heavy eyeliner and stuff like that, which kind of makes me sad that she didn't go full makeup, but it's more of her being recognizable.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's talk about the kids we've got here. Because we do have the three main kids that are kind of the counterpoint to the sisters. We start out with our sort of main character, I guess, of Max, played by Omri Katz.
Erie, Indiana, for life.
Yeah, he was probably best known for being in Erie, Indiana. One of the main cast in that.
Man,
Of course.
I remember hearing that show way back in the day. Never watched it though.
I watched a few episodes, but it didn't grab me like I think it should have. Those of you who are maybe slightly older might remember him in Dallas. He was J.R. Ewing's son, J.R. Ewing the third.
Wow, Dallas. I'm not even sure if anyone under the age of like 40 remembers him on Dallas.
Yeah, I mean, my parents watched Dallas, but it was never my thing. I mean, so it was kind of on, but I never really paid attention to it.
Dallas was already over by the time I think I existed, probably.
I don't really remember when it went off, but it was definitely more an 80s thing. We've got his little sister, Danny, who is played by Thora Birch.
Talking about standing a legend.
Yeah, she was really huge in the 90s, and then not as huge. But probably best remembered for American Beauty, I'd say.
Kinda, yeah.
That was kind of her biggest thing, but she was in so many movies throughout the 90s, including filming a movie in my hometown. So I've actually been like a few feet away from her as she wandered around my town for that one, movie called Now and Then, which is remembered by a certain brand of millennial. But yeah, if you go and watch that movie, like pretty much every exterior shot is like about a mile from my house. So yeah, but then of course she was in American Beauty as the daughter in there, and that was like her kind of really big role. She went on to do the Dungeons and Dragons movie.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Why?
A movie so bad.
That was a bad idea.
I gotta tell you real quick. In the middle of the Dungeons and Dragons movie, which I saw in the theater, it was like we were sitting there and the movie, like the audience was so bored, and all of a sudden one guy, I swear I have the core books and a set of dice in my car. We can play a better game than this right now. And the entire theater cheered.
I remember when that came out, I wanted to see it because, I don't know, I was young. I didn't know anything about Dungeons and Dragons, but I knew I wanted it when I was younger because I liked fantasy stuff. But my family wouldn't let me because it's of the devil.
Same.
So I was like, okay, fine. And then the movie came out. I finally watched it when it was on TV one day, and I'm like, this is bad. Holy crap.
Yeah.
I just watched the cartoon. That was fine.
The cartoon was actually better than that movie.
Yeah, that
that
made me sad when I saw the movie. Like, wow, I could be watching the old cartoon than this.
They should have just made the cartoon a movie.
Yeah.
I would have watched that. Moving on to kind of our final one of our main six, we have Vanessa Shaw as Allison, who is Max's crush and becomes his girlfriend by the end of the movie. She has had kind of an interesting career in adulthood. She shows up in Eyes Wide Shut. She's got a recurring role on the show Ray Donovan. And she has become a sort of a minor bit of a scream queen. She's done a couple of things like the remake of The Hills Have Eyes and stuff like that. She's done a couple of horror films. But not a lot that generally appeals to our demographic. I feel she kind of went more into kind of just basic dramas and stuff. We have two people in the supporting cast we gotta shout out because we've mentioned one of them before. We've got Jason Marsden back as the voice of Thackeray Binks.
Jason Marsden also was on Eerie, Indiana.
But we last talked about him for the Goofy movie.
Yep, Max Goof.
Because
That's
he is
Max
the
Goof?
voice
Yeah.
of Max Goof. Well, the voice, the body is a different kid.
Ah.
So when you see the human version of him, it's all dubbed over with Jason Marsden's voice. I found out a fascinating thing about Jason Marsden that I didn't know when we did the last episode where we talked about him.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing a rewatch of Deep Space Nine, and he plays a Ferengi in one of the episodes. In the episode Bar Association, he plays the character of Grimp, who's the one that tells Rom that they can't form a union. You can't even say the word union. So I never knew that was him. So that was kind of fascinating. I ran into that when I was doing my rewatch, and I went, wait a minute. And then, of course, we've got the absolute legendary Doug Jones. I think this is the first time we've talked about Doug Jones.
Mm-hmm.
He is every creepy tall monster you've seen since like the mid 80s.
Did he play the zombie?
He is the zombie. He is Winnie's old boyfriend, Billy. He is a contortionist and a mime and an actor. Probably best known for either Abe Sapien in Hellboy. Or the pale man, the one with the eyes in his palms in Pan's Labyrinth. But he's been in everything. If you're a Buffy fan, he was also the lead gentleman in the episode where everybody lost their voice and couldn't scream. But now he is best known as playing Commander Saru on Star Trek Discovery. Who is the tall guy.
He's always doing the tall, otherworldly creature people.
Honestly, if you ever meet him in person, which I have, you immediately get it. Because he has that, like, he looks like a normal dude just in the face. Like, if you just see a headshot of him, you're like, I don't get what it is about that dude. But, like, I'm really tall, and I stand next to him, he dwarfs me, and just the way he moves his limbs and stuff, it is kind of like you've just come across a fey creature in the
I've seen
the middle.
people like that. It's something about how they're, how they grow, or something about their body that just makes them into these really tall, almost like otherworldly elf-like creatures with long, like, fingers and tallness.
Yeah, he is that guy, and he has an amazing sense of style. He's always wearing the most amazingly, like, specifically bespoke, tailored clothes and stuff. He's a really cool guy. If we ever do conventions again, I hope you get to meet him because he's pretty awesome.
Well, you kind of need that tailored bespokeness with that type of height.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pretty sure it's hard to find clothes for his body type otherwise.
All right, a couple of ones that I want to throw in there. We mentioned Thackeray Binks, the human Thackeray Binks, being I lost it. Sean Murray, who was on NCIS now.
Yeah, he's the body, but not the voice.
The voice, yeah. And of course, the amazing cameo of Gary and Penny Marshall.
As a married couple, which is the most horrific part of this movie.
Because they're brother and sister.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah.
What?
Gary Marshall as Satan, Penny Marshall as Medusa. They're brother and sister. The actors are. And they have to play a married couple.
Huh.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, they like never touch or anything. You know, it's just kind of like he refers to her as the old lady, and that she talks about yelling at him later and stuff. But they're very obviously a married couple. which is weird. But they're both uncredited. They just showed up because they wanted to have fun for a scene, I guess.
So, is this the part where we mostly just talk about the film? Because I got some questions for y'all.
Oh yeah, no,
let's
let's
get into
launch
the movie.
into it.
Shoot.
Okay, so when looking up, after watching this, I decided to look up some other people's thoughts on it, and one of the thoughts was always about who is this movie for and its tone. Because some people are like, this movie has so many virgin jokes and jabs, how can this be a kid's film? And some people are like, this movie has so many kid elements, but yet this other thing, how is it meant for adults? Is it meant for teens? There was a great tongue-in-cheek article saying it's definitely made for adults because we just left those two bullies in the cage and they're probably going to die there. And all the virgin stuff. But there was one article on Vox that was obviously kind of just pissing on it just to piss on it because they're mad that millennials have nostalgia for this, because millennials having nostalgia for anything just basically angers the older populace. Because, like, basically talking about, like, oh, the main character just wants to think about sex and stuff and blah, 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 like it's American Pie, but yet there's all these witches stuff and they all act very childish and loud and do. And I'm just, like, reading this like, sir, this is a Wendy's.
Yeah.
Like, you didn't watch Porky's as growing up, old man.
So basically what I'm saying is, what did you think about the tone of this? Because I honestly think that, well, people say this is too adult for kids, or this is too kiddie for adults. I honestly think they were trying to target that kind of preteen to teen market with it.
I think they were trying to get to that audience that was just getting out of the Disney movies. Like, this was 93. Granted, this was the height of movies like Aladdin and stuff, but there was that older audience that wasn't going to watch any of the animated movies. So I think this was one of those movies, let's make a Halloween movie, but let's try to aim it towards that older kid audience to try to reel them back into the Disney fold.
Yeah, I think it's mostly for, I would say, tweens to teens, because you have the teen main characters, you have all the virgin jokes, but you also have this childlike everything and just the over-the-topness. It was kind of like for people who think they're too old to trick-or-treat now, but they still want to do some Halloween.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say that, like, a lot of people, and at the time, I thought it was very racy when I first saw the movie because, ridiculously conservative upbringing. I was like, you said the V word,
It's just the word.
Yeah, but but if you watch it, it's actually, like, for all the jokes about he's a virgin, this is like a really sexless movie.
It's not American Pie, like they're trying to get laid by prom night. It's just pretty much a normal teen boy, a normal teen anyone.
And but even him, like, going toward the girl, like, he mentions that she has breasts, like yabos or whatever.
Yeah,
but Danny,
my brother likes your yabos.
Yeah,
that's uncomfortable.
But when we see him in the bedroom, like, imagining, he's really just imagining what a first kiss would be with her. Like, it really doesn't get lewd.
Or, just imagining, like cuddling or whatever. But that article I mentioned was... Yeah, but article I mentioned was like, he was practically dry humping a pillow. And I'm like, okay, if someone never watched this movie, they probably think they're dry humping a pillow, but they were not.
Yeah, like, they've never seen dry humping in their life. That's what they think what dry humping is.
There are a couple of more adult jokes about how much Sarah loves men. The bus scene where she talks about wanting children and him saying it could take me a few tries. And the thing of Winnie found her boyfriend sporting with her younger sister.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's some jokes in there about that, but they're not jokes that kids would get.
It's
Yeah.
something that's kind of in more recent Disney films, but Disney has had a habit of sneaking in at least a few jokes for the parents in the audience, and I think that's all it was.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's why I think if I had to name a demographic that this is mostly for, it's for that kind of middle school to high school type of audience that
Yeah.
still, like more immature stories like in Disney, but also like sex.
Yeah. Or at least what they're imagining. That first, like, childish version of, like, I've heard about this thing called sex, and I know it has something to do with boobies and kissing. Like,
Oh no, I
before
got
you
caught
really
from a
know
witch.
anything.
Oh no, I
Yeah.
got caught from a witch and now I will die a virgin.
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh,
that the whole virgin thing's been brought up many times in talking about this movie. It's like, well, what are they teaching these kids in school if he's the only virgin? And they never actually say that he's the only virgin.
Yeah, like
you get the feeling that she is as well.
Yeah.
I bet none of these kids even know what sex is.
Yeah. They all seem too young to really have, like, entered into kind of sex as a thing.
Yeah, and I'm going to say this, for the first half hour of this movie, and I'm pretty sure it's intentional, Max is completely unlikable. Even when he's getting bullied, he is, at least to me, completely unlikable. Like, he comes from, he comes from LA. Yeah, he comes from LA. He thinks he's hot. He thinks he's Mr. Cool. He's all slick and giving the girls his phone number, and then she gives it right back to him, which I loved.
That scene was hilarious.
But it's like, he thinks that, this small town life is beneath him because he wants to go back to be living in the big city. And he's just trying to keep this podcast PG. He's a joik. I think that's the most PG word I can use for this.
I don't know what that word
Coitus
is.
guy.
Coitus guy.
Yeah.
The coitus guy.
Because we can't say the other word. We try to keep this podcast as PG as possible to keep it accessible to listeners. Explicit tags don't really help us.
Yeah.
Oh, glad you told me before I started dropping like mini bombs that start with S.
We're like a Marvel movie. You get one swear.
Yeah.
Ooh, can I have it? Can I have it? But.
Oh.
Tina Belcher, you hush.
I said but.
But.
Oh, go ahead.
Conjunction.
What's your function?
This movie, I really do think you hit on it with we're trying to be too cool for school. Because that is exactly what Max is. So if you feel for Max at all, you're gonna feel for him on the, like, yeah, you're right. Everybody who lives where I live is stupid. I'm the only cool one here. I could have those cool sneakers too if it weren't for those bullies. Like, I could have the hot girl if everybody just recognized my game, I
have another question for y'all about the movie. So, while watching this, I was thinking about the pacing of it, because there are times where the movie just seems to be in a lull for a moment. Namely, the scene where they go to that married couple's house that, you could have just cut that out and it wouldn't really affect much of the movie. Or other little things like the bus scene you didn't have to have there, but they're mostly just scenes to show that there are fish out of water in this new 20th century world. But for a time, it just kind of seems to halt the movie a bit.
It feels like
what do you think?
If it was sort of the best way I can describe it, if the movie Mannequin is where.
Oh God! Now that's a movie I haven't heard for a long time.
Yeah, so you have the sort of similar fish out of water story where instead of this woman from ancient Egypt and she becomes, a mannequin in the modern day. She's unfamiliar with the modern world. You could have had a whole movie based on that. Like, here are these 3 witches from the Salem witch trials and they conjure this one last spell to save them before getting burned, and then they're transported to the future. You could have done a whole movie based off that. And just have them, because they're the most interesting part of this movie. There's a reason that the Sanderson sisters are everyone's favorite characters from these movies. They're the only one with any personality.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought the part of the movie that dragged was everything with the kids.
Like I said, the first 30 minutes of this movie it was hard for me to watch. Like, oh, now I remember why I only watched half this movie.
Yeah, and the part where they think they won.
Yeah.
Was kind of meh, even though it was pretty sweet when the little girl wanted to like take care of the cat forever, and her children and their children and their children.
Yeah,
it's like owning a turtle.
Thora Birch is really good in this movie. You usually would think that the youngest kid is the most annoying, but she's not. She's like the best actor of all the kid actors. And the kid they built the movie around is unfortunately not really that great to me.
And also, I felt like the zombie was like during the scenes where it was just the zombie, where it's like, oh lol, his fingers got ran over. I thought the zombie wasn't much of a thing that should have been there. They barely used a zombie.
Yeah.
I wanted more zombie.
What'd you say?
I want more zombie. I think he would have been a good character. I think if you'd have undone his mouth earlier in the movie, that would have been a really like funny mix. And then it could have been like the zombie that was like, I remember Winnie telling me once that salt is their weakness or whatever.
Yeah.
I got something to say about the salt. Hold on. Because they are in the kitchen. They have found out that salt is the thing that will protect them thanks to the spell book.
Mm-hmm.
So they go to the kitchen to find salt. How often do you use salt?
Every day.
Like literally every time you make food, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Why is the salt the most used ingredient in your kitchen? High up on the back shelf where you need a step stool and to move like everything out of in front of it before you find the salt.
Low sodium family.
I don't know about you, but the salt sits on top of my stove. It is the easiest thing to find in my kitchen.
Either that or they already have a little shaker of it, and so they only refill it every once in a while. Because I don't use that much salt in cooking.
I always thought it had a lot to do with playing into the whole LA family. They're from LA, and that whole trope of LA being like vegan and all that stuff, so they wouldn't use salt very often.
I just think they just did it that way because it's a movie. We need a little bit more conflict. Let's put the salt in the back of the thing.
Yeah, it is a movie.
That was like a point of contention in my house. Like, what in the world is this family? Why would you keep the salt there?
Yeah, and it should be in the spice rack, if anything. I keep it in the spice rack.
At least somewhere easily accessible.
Yeah, spice rack. Every house needs a spice rack.
Yeah.
You got your anti-witch spice, you got your pro-witch spice, you got your get high spice, and you got pepper.
Yeah.
And if you're like any person of color, then you got 18 billion more spices for other things. And a whole jar of whole chili peppers to put in chili. That's my house.
I'm coming to your house for dinner as soon as all this is over.
Good, because I actually make stuff with some flavor.
Yeah.
And I know some of those southern recipes from my grandma, so you'll be well taken care of here.
Yeah. The other thing I gotta love just weird scenes in this movie. Are we even gonna talk about the fact that this movie makes our 3 child protagonists burn 3 old women alive and watch?
Well,
and then do a happy dance?
Yeah, it wasn't Hansel and Gretel. And even to the point where Danny is saying, I want to see him turn to dust.
Yeah, these three children are quite bloodthirsty.
Yeah.
I mean, I can kind of understand if you're like, magical witches, and maybe the only way to get rid of them is to burn them or whatever, but like, I'm not gonna stand there and watch through the window of the kiln as they burn alive and scream.
But here's the thing. Basically, it's like the rules of Zombieland. It's double tap, make sure it's dead. Like end of Scream 2. Extra shot in the head, make sure they're dead. That is actually a smart thing to do because you don't want to leave your enemy kind of like, oh, they're probably dead. No, you want to make sure of it. And plus, there was no internet back then, so how are they supposed to watch snuff films on YouTube? Boom.
You have a very different life than I do, I feel.
So, I mean, it's also the setup to the oven because, you know, we get them to the school. We specifically show the pottery and the Greek statue and all to get them into this pottery oven. And it's like, I didn't know pottery ovens got that hot.
What's really funny is they put in the boombox doing with a French lesson.
Yeah.
And in there to lure them in. And then when they get out, they say, Winnie says, "Where is my book?" And then she says it in French.
Yeah.
And that part made me like fall off the chair laughing.
Their last moments before getting burned is just hearing French, so it's like
There
in their
is-
head.
There were some special moments in this movie that just made me laugh like so hard. And they're just these quick jokes that if you blink, you miss it. And I'm like, yes, whoever put in the jokes right here, yes. Like, it was just hilarious.
The thing to me about this that I realized in the rewatch was any other three actors in those main roles as the sisters, I would have absolutely loathed those characters because everything about their mannerisms and their jokes and the way they do their voices and stuff, that should anger me in how over the top and weird it is.
For me,
But it worked.
For me, the over the topness was, well, part of the thing that was necessary. You could tell, like, because you could tell they're having so much fun being these larger than life witches that, and the role allowed them to really let loose in comparison to their other roles. They had a really good time, and it just, every time they're on screen, it makes you smile because you could tell from the way they're just doing all their lines and doing all the movements. And yeah, you could say, oh, they're doing that because it's a kid's film, but some actors will dial it in if it's a kid's film. They did not.
Yeah, but like there's all these little mannerisms they have, like when they link arms and they do that walk, that like side to side walk, and they're like, heh, 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 heh. And I'm thinking, like, why? Why is this even in here? Who thought of this? What purpose does this serve in the movie? But I kind of like it.
Sometimes
it gives them personality.
Sometimes it's just art for art's sake.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, I mentioned before, but just the gag of Kathy and Jimmy, her last film she played a nun, and this movie she played a witch.
Yeah, like just it just seems like it's just so fun every like time they're on screen, and which is why they probably put in so many extra scenes to just let them have some fun with it, even though the movie could have been a bit shorter and more streamlined without them.
Yeah, I mean, this is a 2-hour movie. You could have cut a half an hour and shortened this up a bit, but there's just so much of the Sanderson sisters that make this movie so much fun to watch. It's just these three fish out of water people from the past that just are trying to understand the modern day. Again, that would have been a much better movie than just having these three kids in it, but you needed that because it's a Disney movie. You got to sell this to kids and all that. I get that.
Don't forget, it's like 3 kids and Bud the Chud.
Yeah.
Bud the Chud. Bud the Chud. Not sure if you ever seen that, but it's stupid.
Can we talk about how like absolutely 90s those bullies are.
Oh,
Ice,
yeah. Ice.
yes.
I laughed. That's another moment that made me laugh so hard because I'm like, oh my God. Really?
Word to your mother.
Oh my God. Really?
And then the idea of there's just so many bad like cultural takes in this film. Like the kid says that he's like going for Halloween as a rapper, and the dad's like, "Well, then you need your hat sideways, son."
That's the part where I actually face palmed, and I'm like,
That's such a dad joke, though.
And I'm just like, stop it. No, you're not.
Oh.
That sounds like something a '90s dad would say to a kid. It's like, you guys, this is what the rappers wear, right?
If it was like peak '90s, they would have like a rap scene for no reason in the movie, like the witches do a rap or something. Which you don't do that if you have Bette Midler's voice doing the thing.
If it wasn't Bette Midler, it probably would have been a rap song.
Yeah, that's true. I think I would have traded in that scene when they're at the guy that couple's house with just another musical number of some sort.
That'd have been great.
Well, finally give Kathy and Jimmy her song, you know?
Yes.
Yeah, if there's a sequel, I want Kathy and Jimmy to have her song.
Well, we know that there is a sequel planned for Disney Plus, and those three have agreed to be a part of it. I don't know how much of a part of it, but they are. That's what's been said. We don't know when, mostly because of 2020 being 2020.
Here's the interesting thing: we found out about the possibility of that sequel from Doug Jones.
Yeah.
So he's supposedly going to be back for any sequel. I don't know if that means bringing Billy back necessarily, or if they'll give him, another character. Some of the movies he's in, he'll play like 3 different characters in the same movie. But I'm very excited for the fact that like he will be back as well.
Question: we never actually said what this movie was about.
We can kind of backtrack on that one. So we have these 3 witches, and they are old ladies in 1893, and they want to live forever. So
1693.
1693, thank you. 1693, and they want to remain young by sucking the souls out of children, as you do because you're a witch. So they brew their little potion. They kidnap one of the children, and her big brother, Thackeray, is trying to rally the town's, hey, the witches have kidnapped my sister. They're gonna devour her. We need to get everybody together and get the witches. And then he decides to go alone and fails miserably.
Well, he doesn't decide. It's just that his friend chickens out on him. He's like, I'm gonna go get my sister, and his friend's like, no, wait, stop, come back.
Well, his friend did get all the townspeople for him while he was like,
I'm gonna go get my father,
Yeah. And then they hang them, which I remember that same Vox article was like, they actually hang people in this. I was like, okay, yeah, I'll give you that one, but it wasn't as graphic as you think.
Yeah, but it's like poor Thackeray, he just utterly fails to protect his sister as her soul is absorbed by the witches and they turn young again. And
then he's a cat.
Yeah. Like, they could have easily turned him into, devoured his soul as well and stayed young forever, but no, they had to punish him because he dared to defy them by trying to rescue his sister.
But let me tell you this though. I'm thinking that it's the difference in what a child was in the 1600s versus in the 1900s.
Good point, because basically if you were a teenager, like say 14 or whatever, you can already get married and do all the adult stuff.
Mm.
Yeah, they mentioned that Thackeray is 15. He would have already been like, apprenticed to somebody and, working his way up. He might have already had a girlfriend looking toward marriage, And when we see the big scene of them calling all the little children, in the first scene, Thackeray is not, him and his teenage friend, not affected. when we see it in the 90s, still, like, you see, like, some that are, like, maybe 12 or so in the big group coming toward the house, but most of them are, like, children.
And Max and Allison aren't affected by the song either.
You know what?
Neither are the bullies.
Yeah.
You know what pisses me off, though? All right, so it's near the end of the film. They sang the song. They got children. They got a little bit of their little potion left. They could have grabbed any one of those kids, taken their life force, and then and then they'll have plenty of time to get their vengeance on, the LA kid and his sister and whatever.
Yeah, and then when he just specifically said she wants that kid. She called me old. She called me ugly. I want revenge.
You could have killed them any time if you just took a few kids and sucked their crap out, and then you would have been young, probably would have been a child after sucking all those children. That sounds horrible. After sucking the life force out of those children, and then you would have gone up to their school because now you're a teen witch. And you seduce them, and then kill them, and raise hell in the town, and destroy all the children, and set fire to everything. And win.
Viga presents Winifred the Teenage Witch, coming to ABC this fall.
I
watch that show.
I just think it was a flaw of the screenplay to have a time where a villain could win and not do it. I feel like the reason is always lazy. I feel like it's not always well thought out. I felt like there could have been a better way of writing it. Whenever that happens in a movie, I always get very mad because I know there's a better way you could have wrote it. Or you could have made the goal from just saving one sister to saving all of the children. You could have had a higher goal in that case. There's so many other ways you could have done it than, no, I'm not going to do the obvious thing that would make me win because someone called me ugly. I just have so many problems with that type of villain trope.
It also plays into their vanity. I mean, when his own vanity of wanting to stay young forever.
I know, but
it's right there. If vanity is your main driving force, there's like 200 children on your doorstep to provide that.
Well, I mean, I fully agree. This is them being stupid, but again, we need to get to the end of the movie. That's how we get to, and these movies, the villains aren't supposed to be that smart.
Yeah.
The part of the big joke is that Sarah is the dumb one of the trio, but all three of them are kind of dumb.
I just felt that the way, you could have made the ending even better if you kind of raised the goalpost for the protagonists, because they were already getting a lot of conflict dealing with all this. Raise the stakes for the protagonists makes the ending even better for them. It makes it more of an earned happy ending, and it would have made the final battle even more important and even more weighty. I just think the final confrontation could have been better. I think the end, basically that last third, Act 3, could have been written stronger. I still like this movie, don't get me wrong, but there are certain points in the thing where I was like, man, if this was written this way, this probably would have been better. If it was written that way, if this was cut, if this joke was here, if they added a joke here, and more Bette Midler music, damn it.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's my one cuss then. I wasted on the D word. Crap.
Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if someone was trying to do a Hocus Pocus musical and just have more musical numbers in there. Disney does these big Broadway productions. Why not?
I'm looking that up right now to see if anyone tried that.
That would be great. I think.
Hocus Pocus, Disney's next Halloween musical that it doesn't know it's producing? What? Okay,
there was two Hocus Pocus rumors going around for a while. One was a straight sequel to the 93 movie. One was a reboot. Maybe that's what they're talking about, that the musical was going to be this reboot.
I don't want to reboot.
Oh,
Stop rebooting things.
A musical parody? There's just a few rumors going around. It looks like there was rumors and never really one.
But that would work really well on a stage.
Oh, wait. The unauthorized musical parody of Hocus Pocus ran in Los Angeles back in probably 2016.
Huh. But Disney, Disney loves to translate to Broadway now, and I think it would be fun to do this as a musical on the stage, but then have like the witches interact with the audience. Like go out into the audience searching for children or whatever.
Or making everyone dance till they die.
It could be like an audience participation show, which I kind of hate in general. Like I'm not big on those, but like you could sort of make it almost like a British pantomime kind of idea. Or there are like callbacks from the audience, and there are like certain things you do, and
or something like Cats, where they go out into the stage, or not stage, into the audience and stuff. I never seen Cats.
Nothing should be like Cats. Nothing should ever be like Cats.
I never seen Cats like live, but I hear they do that. I hear that they do go out into the audience or something.
They do.
Is it
apparently
as sounds?
Elaine Stritch saw like one of the early things, Broadway legend Elaine Stritch, and she was apparently the cats came down into the audience and started coming near her, and she screamed, "Don't you touch me!"
Ah.
So yeah, I feel like Elaine Stritch. Don't touch me, but it could be.
I would say the beginning of the Lion King musical, because in the beginning of the Lion King musical, all of the animals are coming down the aisle out of the crowd, and then they go on the stage and do the show.
Yeah, I do like it when there's a little bit of interaction in musicals and plays. It kind of brings the whimsy to you.
Yeah, this would be a good one for it, though. Like, if anything this one would lend itself to that.
Yeah, I think an adaptation would be good.
I find it very interesting, like, the book. Okay, let's talk about how the sisters come back, because this kind of bothers me a little. We see the sisters, they're about to be hanged, and the book falls open and basically is like, hey, Winnie, do this spell and it'll save your life, because the book is sentient. And she looks down and she's like, oh, yes, I'll be back on Halloween night or whatever. And then when we jump to the present time of the movie, there's this thing about like, oh, yeah, over there is the black flame candle and it has to be lit by a virgin on Halloween night and stuff. And I'm like, where was that in this spell?
Yeah, good point.
How did, like, it just made it sound like, on Halloween night, when the moon is full, I will return. And it's like, no, there are all these extra conditions now. Did y'all just have that black flame candle just hanging around for no other reason, Like,
and it's like, why does it have to be one particular day? Like, if you had it for any time, it would have been more of a window for you to come back.
So yeah, if that candle had been lit on September 5th, would they still come back or not?
Exactly. I do like how their houses kind of looks like it became a tourist attraction.
Yeah,
well, they do mention
it's a museum now.
Yeah, because Allison's mom used to be the curator of the Sanderson Sisters Museum before tourism went down, apparently.
But here's the other thing. Okay, so they know the spell. The townspeople know the spell, because Allison is like, oh yeah, if a virgin lights that on Halloween night, it's gonna bring the sisters back. Okay?
And
then he's just like, well, let's light the candle, And
I'm a skeptic boy.
All I am thinking is, this museum has been sitting dormant long enough for there to be like thick cobwebs everywhere and nothing works, and the gate is kind of broken down. You're telling me that there hasn't been a single douchey kid that's like, hey, I got a couple of beers from my dad, and we're gonna make Bo over there go light the candle because I heard he was still a virgin.
Yeah,
Like,
for
that's
real.
never been a thing in all these years because, like, I don't know, maybe it's a Yankee thing, but
But
like
yeah,
down
Kiki,
here,
you have to.
that's a Tuesday.
But yeah, Kiki, you gotta remember they did it on like September 5th, so nothing happened.
I
Maybe
think, but it
like,
also has to be a full moon on Halloween night. So there's some conditions there.
Yeah,
So
you can't go there on your like spring vacation and just light a candle for fun.
you can do it on a full moon, but if it's not full moon on Halloween night, nothing's
but
gonna
I'm
happen.
just surprised that candle's still there. I mean, that's hundreds of years of like, drunken teenagers going in and trying to light the candle on the wrong day or whatever.
And
Well,
the
as long
fact
as it's
that
museums.
Stop
and,
by
and
now.
and the fact that it's like the candle and not a reproduction or some sort of fake candle that just this is what they say it's it's the actual real black flame candle.
Either that or they just kept getting attacked by that cat and didn't get a chance to.
It's possible because we said
Yeah.
we got to go back to Thackeray because he's cursed with immortality. He will never die.
Also, I did not like how they had to show him getting run over by a bus.
Yeah.
Well, I
That
already
was-
got yelled at Kiki for making her watch a movie where a dog dies 4 times.
Yeah.
What do you mean 4 times? Is it an immortal dog?
Sort of. We watched Frank and Weenie last week, and we watched the short film and the full-length film, and over the course of both of those, the dog dies and comes back 4 times.
Sigh. But
Yeah.
like, did we really need the flattened cat scene? I know it wasn't gory, but I love cats, and no. And I know it's like it poofed back. I was like, I'm immortal, remember? Let's go.
I remember that being more traumatic as a child. But I find it interesting that the cat is the first thing in this movie to have been created. Because apparently this entire movie came from like a guy was sitting outside with his daughter or whatever, and a black stray cat ran through the neighborhood or whatever, and he was just like, the legend says that cat used to be a boy, but he was turned into a cat 300 years ago by witches and cannot die or whatever, and just started telling a story to his daughter or whatever. And that's where the whole movie came from, apparently. So the cat is the first thing to have been created for this film.
Yeah, sometimes random things will spark thought that turns into an entire movie. I was watching a video on the Film Courage channel on YouTube that talks a lot about screenplay writing, and there was an episode that talked about that very thing. One little thing leads to this, leads to that, leads to a screenplay.
Yeah.
I would love to see like a weird cartoon show that's just like the adventures of Thackeray Binks throughout the 300 years.
Technically, there's a cartoon of Hocus Pocus.
Wait, what? I'm looking this up.
It's called The Brew. Came out around 2018 for the 25th anniversary. It's a series of like 1-minute shorts that look like the old Rankin Bass stop motions, and it's a parody of The View.
Oh, I see it. I see it now.
And it's Winnie in the role of Whoopi Goldberg in The View. Going back, it always comes back to Whoopi Goldberg.
Nice.
So it's like the 3 of them in their own version of The View, and like they were 1-minute shorts. They were done for the 25th anniversary. They played on Freeform. I think back then it was still called ABC Family.
I need to watch these later.
Yeah. Unfortunately, they did not get Bette Midler, Kathleen Jimmy, and Sarah Jessica Parker to voice the characters.
Too expensive, probably.
Yeah. For 1-minute shorts, yeah.
That's very weird. But yeah, it does
sound like a short. I mean, Disney just released a 12-minute prequel for Olaf.
Oh,
We can get one. We can get one for Thackeray.
That snowman thing I saw on Disney Plus? No
Yes.
thanks. I hate Olaf.
It's actually kind of fun. There's
hate Olaf.
some good jokes in there. I mean,
I
that's
want-
fair, but
I want to burn him.
but
He doesn't like those kind of warm hugs.
Burn him.
the
Burn him!
I love at the end of the film when Thackeray is finally able to die and the magic breaks. That his sister's like, "What took you so long?" And he's like, "Well, you just got to go straight to the afterlife. I had to wait 300 years for a virgin, stupid candle."
One last virgin
That
joke.
made me laugh. That was a sweet scene. His sister coming back for her soul.
Yeah.
I have heard a rumor that the animatronic that they used for Thackeray got reused as Salem in Sabrina the Teenage Witch.
Well, it wasn't ABC at the time, and that was Disney Network. So
yeah,
it's possible. I'm not saying it's impossible, but I wouldn't doubt that. Or at least they made a new animatronic based off the old one.
It's probable.
I am going to say though that we talked a couple of weeks ago about the chicken puppetry in Return to Oz and how it was so awful. The cat puppetry in here actually holds up pretty well.
Yeah, I just want to talk about the animatronics in general, not only of Thackeray but of the book.
Did they use some CG in that too, or is it all practical?
I think it's all practical.
Because I was like, this is 93, but if that's CG, it looks pretty good.
The sheer number of practical effects in this movie is amazing. Like
like the book.
The only CG anything would probably be the lightning effects of Winifred shocking Max.
Yeah, and some of the dust effects and other things.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's the really kind of icky thing is apparently, when they cut open Billy's mouth and he can finally speak again, he puffs out a bunch of dust and moths and stuff, and apparently that was not CGI.
Yeah, that one I knew they probably just had him put in a bunch of stuff in his mouth.
No, apparently there were real moths.
Oh, what the heck?
Yeah, I don't know. Poor moths, poor actor. No, thank you.
That's why he gets paid the big bucks to do creatures. Willing to eat moths.
Yeah.
You don't get paid the little if you're willing to eat moths.
Yeah, must tolerate silicone prosthetics and be willing to eat moths.
That is a Venn diagram you will never see.
I mean, like all of the flying, all of anything is just all practical, and kudos. I mean, we've talked before about how practical effects is kind of dying out in movies. Everything being CGI now.
Yeah, and when
for this movie to have that kind of level of practical effects on it, it's amazing.
Well, it was 93 where practical effects was still being used more than CG because the technology wasn't high enough at the time.
Yeah.
But nowadays when people use practical effects, it's intentional on the director's part. It's all because they want a certain realism that computers just cannot do yet, or they are very much prefer the more practical effects craft. If I had to choose, I would choose practical effects because I just love the craft in general.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Although, you're right. Practical,
I would always prefer practical if possible.
Yeah, and now it's just mostly because it's now cheaper just to do everything in CG. I mean, look at the prequels with George Lucas, how almost everything was filmed on the green screen.
Yeah, and it just doesn't look as good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can for the most part, there's that new stuff they're using for The Mandalorian, and we'll get to that soon, but there's like that new virtual set kind of stuff that they're using for that, and that looks much, much better. But in the prequels, like, and for most things that are using like blue screen CGI sets, you can feel that, like, you can't really touch it.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So I don't always like that. I want there to be some element, and also it's just better for the actors. Actors absolutely hate working on a green screen because there's nothing to play off of.
Yeah, they usually have to put in some sort of green screen, maybe ball and a stick, just so they know what to face.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And it's just not the same as the real stuff, you know?
And it's always, you can have the best actor in there, but if they don't really know how to interact with essentially nothing, you're not going to get the best out of them.
Yeah, but some good actors will just make it work and do the job.
Yeah. So, I want to talk a little bit about the parents, how they're not the best parents. Like Max gets bullied and he comes home and his shoes have been stolen, and their first thing is, oh, he must be protesting something. Not, our kid had his shoes stolen.
L.A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's just straight up. Yeah.
They're very hands-off parents to begin with. Like, they're like, hey, we're going to a party. Take care of your little sister.
Yeah.
Bye.
But you know what? Being a parent is hard, so having just a chance to go out and have some fun, do it.
Yeah, but it's also like not. Granted, the idea of three witches are chasing us and they're trying to kill us is a very fantastical, over-the-top thing for anyone to believe, but the parents don't even give him the benefit of the doubt.
I did notice that in the movie where he come and said it was an emergency, the dad immediately dropped his Dracula act and just been a dad. So he did like listen to it, but then it's like, if I was a guy and some kid and my kid was talking about some witches trying to kill me at a Halloween party, I would think, what? No. And then, of course, then there's a musical number that really solidifies the no. And next thing you know, you're dancing for like 8 hours and you can't stop.
Yeah. And I thought LA was a party city.
Well,
I thought those costumes were great, by the way.
There's two things the parents do at the party that I really do not approve of. One is when the dad is still doing his Dracula act and he looks at his, like, son's girlfriend or whatever, who, granted, he's never met before, but it's obviously, like, a kid that his son is hanging around with. Mm-hmm. And he goes, like, ooh, who is this tasty little blood donor? And I'm like, no, back away.
Stranger danger. I will give it the benefit of the doubt because they were acting within character, well, quote, character for Dracula.
But that is still like,
that's kind of like cringe doing that to a teenage girl.
Yeah, but also the little 8-year-old. Okay, the little 8-year-old shows up at the party you're at and is terrified.
Yeah.
Well, there's something wrong. I'm scared. I'm dead. And all you do is go like, do you like my Madonna cone bra? Like, you know, and it's like, no, your 8-year-old is terrified. Now, she's probably terrified of something that's not real. It's Halloween. She probably saw a scary costume or, you know, whatever. But like, go comfort your child. Make sure she's okay. Send her home with a bunch of candy, and then go back to your dance.
Yeah.
Like, just take a few minutes to calm your child. Where's your brother? Let's make sure you're safe and home. It's getting late. You shouldn't be out trick-or-treating at this point, you know? Like,
mm-hmm.
And then go back
like
to your dance.
2 a.m. or something? Or at least midnight?
Yeah, it's getting pretty late by that point. Because all the other kids have to, like, get out of bed.
That would have been like the first sight seeing her. I'd been like, why ain't your ass home?
Yeah.
Girl, you need to be in bed. School tomorrow.
I think that's like exactly what it should be.
Oh, sorry, I dropped a word.
It's all right.
It's fine.
The interesting thing is that this would have been a Sunday night, but they were in school that morning.
Yeah.
I actually Googled it.
I'm like
what day of the week this was. You're
8. Why aren't you in bed? Where's your brother? He's got to be grounded for not babysitting right.
And well, she does say, where is your father? So that's another warning right there. Like, why is my husband not with me? Where did he go?
Sigh.
Yeah, there's, yes.
Yeah, these two seem to be parents who don't really check in much with their kids. Because, like, I think the worst thing is at the beginning where he's, like, obviously being bullied and they don't even notice.
But also, you have to remember, in kids' media, they always try and get the parents off screen, because in real life, kids can't do any of this stuff, like run around town late at night trying to do witch stuff, because their parents are going to be like, get your butt to bed. Or they see they're in trouble and then try and take over for the kids. That's what happens in real life. But in movie and TV show life, you notice how all the cartoons and movies we like grew up with, all the kids doing all this stuff around town, doing their bikes, going in the woods, finding dead bodies, poking them, and doing all of this stuff. And you're like, my mom won't even let me get off the block. Because in media, because basically kids media, they want to focus on the kids doing one big task. So they have to put the adults to the side somehow. Basically, like adult fridging in a way, I guess. So they put the parents at the party, and then when they do try and get adults, it's usually fails. Like when they talk to that fake cop.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
That part was useless. That was a useless scene I would have cut.
Well, the interesting thing is that this movie lies on the cusp between, like, a very important generation swing. Because if you watch, like, people who have been watching, like, Stranger Things or whatever when it first came out, the internet was filled with posts of primarily younger people going like, why are these children just constantly riding around with no adult supervision on bikes? And it's like, yeah, but the early 80s were like that for most kids.
Yeah. Then like, in the 90s, wasn't allowed to do that. Wasn't allowed to take my bike outside the cul-de-sac or whatever.
But there's a very specific reason why. The satanic panic of the late 80s and early 90s completely changed, and shows like Unsolved Mysteries and stuff where, like, every night you had some creepy guy come on being like, you know, hey, this kid was out in his front yard and then he disappeared forever. Was it aliens? We'll never know. Good night, you know?
But you also have to remember that basically, some children did have that experience, but it really depends where you're from. I lived in the city a lot when I was a kid, and this was in DC in the 90s where it was very murdery and dangerous, and before gentrification changed everything. So I wasn't allowed to do certain things or go certain places because I would either get raped, get kidnapped, get, beaten up, or, become a commodity to be priced to get some crack or something.
Yeah.
So, it really depends on where you come from. Like, if it was a small town, you could probably go around on your bikes. If you live in a city, heck no. If you live in the suburbs, depends on the suburb.
Yeah. I will grant that that's a big part of it too, but I think just generationally that you find, like, Gen Xers who are just slightly older than, the three of us here speaking, had a bit more freedom in their early childhood. And then by the time we came along, there was, like, no freedom because that panic had taken over. And it was like, it's 10 o'clock. Do you know where your children are? And I think that really got into a lot of parents. I was kind of raised both ways. When I was really little, my mother would not go next door to talk to the neighbor without calling me from next door 3 minutes after she walked out the front door to make sure I was okay. So she was very kind of, protective and wanted to make sure she knew where I was at all times. And then as I got older, my father was a bit more permissive in that. It's like, you're a good kid. You got a good head on your shoulders. You're not going to burn down the house or anything. I'll be back in a few hours. Bye. You know.
I didn't really get that going around anywhere I want experience till I was around 16, where I had enough allowance to go take the metro into the city, or hell, into the next state sometimes to get to the good mall.
Yeah,
or just
but
ride around with my friends doing nothing.
Yeah, I did though have not entirely similar experiences, but like in my kind of pre-teens, early teens, there was kind of a point where I could see like, I could have, if I wanted to, grab my bike and go somewhere, as long as I'm home by like 2 a.m., nobody will notice. There was a bit of flexibility, but I was a super boring kid who just wanted to stay inside and watch movies.
Yeah, curfews
so
and all.
I never did any of the crazy stuff. But I think this is a very interesting point in time, because the parents are still concerned enough that like their youngest child has somebody with her. The teen has to be with her. But at the same time, they're not hovering so much that the kids can't go out and do their own thing.
Yeah, and there is actually, I've watched a few videos and seen some articles in the last few years about making your child more free range, but cities are like, no, you can't, and things like that. But from a writing perspective, I just think because of, like in a lot of kid media, like heck, Disney's Doug did this, freaking other shows did this, Teen Degrassi and all that other stuff. They have to get the adults out the way so kids can do the space to do their own thing. So they just write it that way because it's supposed to be focused on the kids. And yeah, sometimes you'll have the adults in it, like occasionally, but it's always this parents are like this weird island we don't understand and something. But I feel like the Disney show that maybe I should have recommended instead of Bonkers, that it was the good medium, was Weekenders.
I honestly, I don't know about that one.
You've never watched Weekenders? Oh no. My God!
Was it a Disney Channel show?
Yes, it was.
That's why. Didn't have Disney Channel until I was like an adult.
It wasn't on Disney Channel. It was on regular TV, like one Saturday morning.
ABC Saturday morning. That would be early 2000s.
Yeah.
I would super sleep on Saturday mornings.
Yeah. That show was good, and it was ahead of its time in a lot of respects, and the mom was great. It's probably one of the best moms in animation. Like basically one of my favorite moms outside of anime, and it holds up. I watched some of it. It holds up. Watch Weekenders, and then watch Pepper Ann because that also holds up pretty well.
Apparently, Weekenders is not on Disney Plus.
Well, it should be.
It probably will be soon.
Eventually, everything will be eventually on Disney Plus.
There will only be one website. It will be Disney Plus. It will be your everything.
A common thing we have on here is like, if you've seen like Demolition Man, or every restaurant is Taco Bell, eventually everything will eventually become Disney.
Yep. And we still won't have a park in the north. I lived in the DC area when they were talking about building one in Virginia, and I was sad that never happened.
I remember that story.
It snows, and they'd have to close the park half the year.
Actually,
there was a lot of pushback against that. I remember that.
Actually, Defunct Land did a great episode on all of the reasons, the many reasons why it did not go through. From money to the failures of Michael Eisner to the pushback from Virginians to all sorts of things.
The failures of Michael Eisner. They are many.
That's
You
an
definitely
episode
have to
in
watch
itself.
the Funkland. It's my favorite.
Yeah,
YouTube channel.
we need to do an episode that's just the failures of Michael Eisner.
Oh, I got so much stuff
Whisper.
I got so many things that you could watch for research.
Well, you're from Euro Disney all the way to the first incarnation of California Adventure.
Anyway,
Yeah.
let's get back onto the topic of this film. I want to know what happened to that statue of Winnie at the end of the movie. Like, that has to exist somewhere.
It blew up.
Yeah,
7 of those.
the prop, I mean.
Yeah. They made quite a few of those statues, but I'm sure like at least one of them probably still exists somewhere.
In the Disney Vault, the Disney Archive somewhere.
Yeah.
Oh,
the
yeah.
Disney Archive somewhere.
I want to just go into like the storage room of Disney and just unearth so much treasure.
I have your answer. Planet Hollywood in Orlando, Florida.
Ooh,
They have
nice.
one of the statues and Winnie's spell book.
So, do you want to pull a Ocean's 11?
I'm
want
not
the
going
book.
to Orlando anytime soon.
I mean, just wear a mask, get in a car, let's go. We'll meet in the Carolinas and work our way down.
I just want to talk about how different all the sisters' personalities are, because I really love the way they made each sister super distinct.
Mm-hmm.
Like Winnie is very much probably the most like obviously ambitiously evil.
Mm-hmm.
She's very in your face with the like, I'm a bad guy, I want you to be afraid of me, boo, you know? And then the Kathy Najimy character is Mary, thank you, is more like a homebody kind of witch. Like she's kind of like a hearth witch.
Mm-hmm.
You would expect to see her out like gathering herbs and being in a kitchen around a fire and stuff, you know?
Yeah.
And then I'm not entirely sure what Sarah is, but I love her. She's always been my favorite.
She's boy crazy. And not even any type of boy. She is like even like teenage Thackeray, teenage Max, like, let me play with him.
But I don't know. That was not the thing about her that I personally remembered. In fact, I was kind of shocked when I rewatched the movie and I'm like, oh, they did put in a lot of jokes. Like in my memory, it was always like men making passes towards her. And I had kind of forgotten about the fact that she like chases after some of them. But like the thing I always remembered about her was, you know, her dancing and random singing, and she was kind of disconnected from this reality, and she ate spiders.
I remember she was peppy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I did that
Dead
all
man's
the time.
toe, dead man's toe, dead man's toe.
When I got bored as a kid, like if we were in a group and we were doing something that I found super boring, I would just like stand in the back and start going like amok 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 until usually like a teacher or something stopped me.
I just drew in my notebook. I drew dogs from Lady and the Tramp because that was my favorite movie when I was a kid.
Yeah.
Crap, I'm old and I still don't have a dog.
Aww.
Well, I have
will
two cats.
pictures of mine.
I have two cats, but I told myself when I got older I would get a dog when I was a kid, and I just never did. Now I'm like,
Oh,
crap.
can you imagine Lewis's videos with the dog in it?
Oh my god! I kind of want a dog now.
Yeah, have him have a mascot for his videos.
The cats are already the mascot these days.
I love my cats, but I wouldn't mind also having a dog. But my lifestyle is more cat friendly, honestly.
Well, you can look at pictures of my dog. I'll send you all of the pictures of my dog.
Yay, dogs!
He got a bath yesterday.
Yay, bath!
But I I I think we probably need to start wrapping this up.
Yeah, it's
we've been
been
doing
like
this for
almost
90
2
minutes
hours.
already. Yeah. So let's kind of get our final thoughts on the movie. Viga.
Okay, so Hocus Pocus, it's a movie that kind of shifts in its tone to what demographic it belongs to, and it's inconsistent in the script sometimes with its ups and downs and stops at some points. It has some great comedy to it, and really you're going to be watching for the incredible acting of the Sanderson sisters from Bette Midler, Sarah Jessica Parker, and Kathy Najimy. And what it's nostalgic because of their over the top acting that they're obviously having fun with. It's very infectious because of that. And while the protagonists are pretty forgettable, you're mostly going to be watching for the witches, frankly.
Yeah.
It's a script and it's a story that could use a lot of improvement, but I'm not going to say it's a bad film. It's just a film that could have been even better with a few changes, but it still has its place in nostalgia because we all watched it on TV at one point. To give it a grade,
we usually
B+.
We usually have a question that we ask is, does this movie have the Disney magic?
I will say it has about, I will give it 70% Disney magic. And 20 of that is just Bette Midler.
Yeah.
5% is the song, and the most of it is just the witches. In terms of the writing for it, it could have used a lot more magic. For the comedy, could have had some more comedy. Editing, decent.
All right, Kiki, your thoughts?
I'm gonna mostly agree with Viga. It's not a movie without its flaws, and it really does drag kind of in the first act when it's just the kids before the witches come back. Like the first scene is awesome, and then we get to the modern day with the kids, and it's kind of like, and then the witches come back, and you're like, okay, we've picked up speed again, and from then on out, it's pretty good. So not without its flaws, but I definitely say it has the magic. Go give it a rewatch if your kids haven't seen it and you got kids that age. Show it to them.
Yeah, if you show it with the younger kids, be prepared to answer some questions.
I say 7+, if anything.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think this is really great for the 10 to 13 kind of age.
Oh yeah. Perfect.
Yeah.
That was our age when we first watched it.
Yeah.
We were pretty much not much older than Thora Birch was in this movie.
Yep.
Yeah.
I was 8 when it first came out, but I didn't watch it till I was at least 10, maybe.
Not because Thora Birch was Thora Birch is 1 year younger than me, so I would say 9, 10-ish.
No, we would have been 12.
In '93 I was 8, so
yeah.
By the time I watched it in around 95, 96, I was 10 or 11. So yeah.
I actually this was one of the early ones that I saw in theaters. This was right in those first couple of years when I was able to go watch movies in theaters. So
yeah, I think you're a bit older than me. I think.
Yeah, a couple of years. Fine. Don't make me feel too old.
I'm gonna have to agree with
old woman. Go get the life essence of a child quick.
That would mean getting near a child. I don't want to do that.
Do you really want to do that in 2020 now? You know.
They're disease carriers.
You can't really suck anyone's soul out through a mask.
Yeah. Kind of difficult.
Anyway, I have to agree with Kiki on a lot of her points. The first part with the witches and Thackeray was really cool. The first act with the kids really, really dragged. It's I had to pause this a couple of times and walk away from this movie. It's oh god, I liked this movie as a kid. And then when the witches finally came back, it was full force, pedal to the metal, let's go. This is why I like this movie. So yeah, I'm gonna say it has the magic, definitely. A lot of it is nostalgia based, but for Halloween, it's not a bad movie to watch.
So cumulatively, it's more like if from 1 to 100 magic, 75?
Yeah, 75
Yeah.
magic. And there actually is kind of a sequel already of this. In 2018, they released a book called Hocus Pocus and the all-new sequel.
Gasp. Which gasp?
Yes. It's a 2-story book. The first half is a novelization of the movie Hocus Pocus. The second half of the movie takes place 25 years later with Max's daughter, Poppy. Max and Allison apparently stayed together and got married because small town, apparently. No offense. But yeah, they have a daughter. She is also kind of bullied, and the Sanderson sisters come back for a little bit of revenge. Since they can't get Max because he's an adult, they go after his daughter.
I wonder if they're going to adapt
sisters.
that. Oh, go ahead.
Those darn sisters.
I wonder if they would adapt that into a sequel, or at least take some of the points from that into an actual filmed sequel. If they did make a sequel, I'm not sure if it'll have that same charm unless they have the original actresses back. And based on what I've read, they would be willing to do it.
Last I heard that they had signed on for the Disney Plus version of it, like Disney Plus original movie. When it was going to be a theatrical movie, I believe they were going to go full reboot.
The interesting thing is, though, is the kid who played Max, who's he's in his mid-40s now, but he has been retired for years from acting. He's been retired for over a decade from acting. So if they did, it might be like, Thora Birch's kid, maybe? Possibly. Like Danny's kid, because she talked about, I want to have kids, or maybe Aunt Danny is taking care of Max's kids because something horrible happened to Max. Yeesh. I don't know. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe the actor would come back if Disney threw enough money at him, but,
You don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's all we can say about this movie. So Viga, as a first-time guest, because you've kind of already spoiled it, but as a first-time guest, you are allowed one request that we will watch. You want to go through it? Bonkers. Disney. So we're going right back into the Disney afternoon with Bonkers. We kind of mentioned it in our Roger Rabbit review, how they're very similar.
Yeah, because Bonkers was originally going to be a Roger Rabbit series.
We have talked about that.
And
to the point where they actually referenced this in Animaniacs, because that was Spielberg's show. Roger Rabbit is Spielberg's character, so he was kind of taking digs at Bonkers whenever he can, because Disney was trying to do Roger Rabbit without him.
Yeah, and I'd rather have a Roger Rabbit show, because Roger Rabbit, that was a good movie, still a good movie. Watched it several times in childhood, teenagerdom, and adulthood. Will keep saying it's a good movie, and should have done more with it. Should have had a sequel, a TV show, something, because people are forgetting about Roger Rabbit, and I will not have the first favorite crossover of my life be forgotten.
That's on Spielberg, really. We got to talk about that. That's on Spielberg.
Yeah, go listen to our episode about that. I think you'll be kind of pleased and interested in the things we had to say.
I have to plug another podcast for this one. Tony Goldmark was recently on a podcast called How Did This Not Get Made, and they talk about the various Roger Rabbit sequels, including one that was going to take place at the opening day of Disneyland.
Look, Disney, you have all the money in the world. You're practically Amazon rich. Just buy the rights for Roger Rabbit and make the thing. Do it.
Yeah.
Does anybody know if Jeff Bezos likes Roger Rabbit? Maybe he'd kick in a few billion to fund the rest.
So
Look,
we
you
will
want
be
an
actually.
even more ambitious crossover event than Avengers. You get Roger Rabbit back on the silver screen with Bugs Bunny and Mickey Mouse and freaking anime, because where's the Japantown and Toontown? You know it's anime.
So we will be
Freaking
doing
Sailor
bonkers. We will be doing bonkers in 2 weeks' time, because next week, as this episode is going up, this Friday is the season premiere of The Mandalorian. Yes, more Mandalorian, more Baby Yoda. And so in honor of that, next week we will be going through the entirety of season 1 of The Mandalorian, our favorite moments, our favorite episodes. Baby Yoda, I have spoken.
We will tell you spoilers for everything season 1, but we will not get into season 2.
No.
Mandalorian is pretty much one of the main reasons I even got Disney Plus.
I think it's the reason everybody gets Disney Plus.
And for a while, I only really watched that on Disney Plus, and then it stayed dormant for a while, just sucking money from my account until now. It was like Mandalorian, rewatch Great Mouse Detective to see if it's still good, rewatch Bonkers to see if it's still good. It's not. And then I forgot Disney existed. Oh, Imaginary Story. That's a good documentary series.
It definitely is. I recommend that. So tune in next week for The Mandalorian. Tune in 2 weeks for we're talking about Bonkers. Bonkers is going to be unique because it had 2 different protagonist characters, and we will be talking about both of them.
Yup.
So tune in for that. Thank you, Viga, for joining us on the podcast. We really wanted you on the podcast. We really wanted you on this particular podcast. Is there anything you want to plug or advertise for yourself before we head out?
Yes, plenty. So, I am an art YouTuber. You can find my stuff on YouTube at Viga's Art Room. It's also the name of my art Instagram, so follow me there. Oh, but on Twitter, it's just Viga. Viga, not Vega. Viga.
You're not a Spanish Street Fighter character?
Get out of here. You know what? This is my podcast now. Look at me, or hear me, because we're my podcast now.
You and Kiki do the podcast.
I stole it. It's now
I'm
the
down
Viga
for that.
and Kiki show. It's now the Kiki and Viga show with our other third person. I'm looking on my desk. Pencil. Yeah. Pencil.
You
is the
two
new
can
Mr.
do the Star
Tuesday.
Wars holiday special then.
But yes, this was fun, and thank you for having me on.
Yeah, always glad. If you ever want to come back, if you ever have another idea, or look at what we're planning for the next couple of weeks, and you want to join in on that, we're always glad to have you back.
No problem.
All right, and I think that's all we can say about that. So join us next week for The Mandalorian, joining us in 2 weeks for Bonkers, and we will talk to you all later. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to Rewatching the Magic. We invite you to keep the magic going by joining the conversation online. Find us on Facebook at Rewatching the Magic, on Twitter at Rewatch the Magic, and of course, find all new episodes at rewatchingthemagic.podbean.com. Until next time, remember, the magic is for everyone. It only stops if you let it.